Michael Steele, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen apparently called Trump the arsonist who now wants to play fireman by signing the executive order. And she goes, quote, anything to boost his fragile ego. What do you make of this capitulation by the president?
He still probably doesn't look at it so much as a capitulation as having to accommodate folks around him, which is why he's putting a lot of pressure back on the Congress to clean up my mess. And oh, by the way, you're going to get blamed for it in the first place and in the last place. So you see the president finally coming around and signing this executive order, but the underlying fault line still runs itself to his desk. And that's something that they're going to have to deal with over the succeeding weeks, because this doesn't end. And you already asked the important question, is it retroactive? How do those in the system currently get attended to versus those who are coming into the system?
Is the party about to break on this one? Like, was this the one that it was going to break?
It was. So, I think common knowledge in Washington is that congressional Republicans have wanted to dump Donald Trump for a long time, but their base wouldn't let them. I think their base was going to let them.
You think the base was going to let them, or everybody else not in the base was giving them cover?
I think there's certainly an element of the Republican base that was comfortable with the policy.
28% we've seen consistently.
Right, but there's still a lot of Republicans who are base Republicans who were horrified by this. I saw a Republican congressman tweet out pictures of him taking calls from constituents, conservative district, calling to complain about this.
Mark Meadows.
Yes, right.
Yeah, Mark Meadows, when he flipped, I thought, wow, okay.
And so, this was, I think, a point where Republicans in Congress, because they had cover from their districts, were going to flip on the president, and that became glaringly obvious to the White House.
John Meacham, officially the first guardrail that's been erected?
Yes, and I think, at the risk of being seen as a quisling, I don't think we can spend a week demanding that something happen. It basically happened, and then say, well, he was the arsonist too. So the president laid out a false dichotomy there about the strength and weakness. Always interesting that he always speaks in terms of strength and weakness, not right and wrong. But this is what the system is supposed to do. If the government gets something wrong, we're supposed to speak out. We're supposed to talk about it, and we're supposed to.
Well, let me put up the poll numbers. Sarah, to your point here, it wasn't a close call, no matter how you ask the question. CNN, 67-28 disapprove. Quinnipiac, 66-27 disapprove. CBS, 67-17 disapprove. We see some consistency. Well, there's two-thirds of the country.
But I think to a point Sarah made, though, is an important one. And I think probably that base, that number is the one that started to change. That's where the shrinkage really began, because all those other Republicans were already outraged. The watch for those members of Congress was, how were those folks in the district who have been card-carrying, hard-charging Trumpers from the very beginning going to respond? And when that started to crack, I think that touched the White House and it touched the Congress.
The challenge, of course, is that the damage is done. And the damage is going to continue for weeks and months, because there's going to be tragic stories, unfortunately. When you have 2,000 or 2,500 families, some are going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
There's going to be press coverage of this for months. And it's good that the White House reversed course. They needed to. But politically, this was, to me, one of the darkest hours of the Republican Party.
Whit Ayers, I got to give you, Whit Ayers, this is a tremendous Washington Post piece that I want to bring up here in a minute, but Whit Ayers in it. And let me put up the headline of this Washington Post piece. A blowtorch to the tinder, stoking racial tensions is a feature of Trump's presidency, by Phil Rucker right now in the Washington Post. But buried in here, the last quote in here, you would appreciate this, Sarah. Whit Ayers says, Republican pollster, in a government by the people, of the people, by the people, and for the people, it helps to have a majority of the people behind you when you're trying to do things like this.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
And he didn't. And depending on the details of the order, we have made progress this week. Our better angels have had a pretty good day. And I'm not saying we therefore have a party for him, but it seems to me that reason requires us to acknowledge that the political class in this country just spent 2 weeks, whatever it's been, obsessed with this. And if, in fact, because of what the president has done to correct a mistake he made, if these children, if it's really about these children, if they're going to be back with their parents, then this is a good day.
But
go ahead.
Can we get back to a little bit of realism here, though, to the point about Whit Ayers' last sentence? Up to this point, Trump didn't need we the people. He didn't need all those people. He operated with a very small minority doing some pretty outrageous stuff. So it wasn't until The people saw the pictures.
The pictures were everything. I completely agree.
Until the narrative changed
everything.
with the photos of children crying at their mother's knee, that changed those folks.
Sarah, the K word got thrown around. And when I say the K word to a former Bushie, I assume you know what that means, that this was, quote, Trump's Katrina. You buy that? That it was that kind of moment?
Yeah, I think it in many ways is worse than Katrina. And Katrina was bad, obviously, for the president. But Katrina ultimately got, it took many months to get past it. I think this is going to take years for the Republican Party to get past it.
Does this break immigration then permanently? Like, does this make it?
Well, I think it goes one of two ways. I mean, it breaks it because the tension is so high, already higher than it was on Capitol Hill. However, Republicans are feeling enormous heat on this issue, understandably so, and perhaps we'll see people come to the table in a way we haven't. I'm not that hopeful. Is this, to go to Phil Rucker's point here, he's basically like, this is their argument. Stoking racial tensions is a feature of Trump's presidency. You buy it?
Yeah, sure. It's why he's president. How did he become the darling of the right wing after being a New York Democrat? He trafficked in untrue lies about the birthplace of the 44th president of the United States. So why would any of us be surprised that he's going to continue to carry on with a strategy that got him to ultimate power? I got to read you this Steve King quote in this piece, because Steve King says that actually the president doesn't focus on culture enough. This is, quote, Steve King. I don't hear this president speaking much about race, but for me, there are cultural distinctions that matter. Whenever you import large numbers of people from singular cultures, you import the culture too. That's why a movement towards assimilation in the broader American civilization is so important. That's been pushed on the back burner. It should be on the front burner. For some in Trump's base, Michael Steele, this is the Trump presidency.
That's the Trump presidency.
This is the fight.
And that's the fight right there. And it goes to something that I and a few others have been saying for a few weeks and even months now. The browning of this country is changing how white people are looking at the country, and it's changing how they're responding to what they're seeing. And it's born out of fear, it's born out of economics, it's born out of a whole lot of things. But it is a trend line that is inevitable, okay, number one. So the question for us as we the people is, how do we now gird ourselves to remain American, uniquely American, while we recognize these changes and figure out how we embrace them? Because we've had to do it in the past.
Can I just tell you,
we've had to do it in the past.
Read John Meacham's book. He goes through this. I don't mean to
why do you think I was looking at?
Right. I don't mean to suck up to him. But we've done this with the Irish. We've done this with Jews. We've done this.
We've been here before.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.